Medical Center for almost 7-8 months. I experienced 17 surgeries total. For 40 days, I was basically in ICU and under quarantine because I came back with E. coli and then 2 staph infections in the leg. Go from 195 to 118 pounds in a span of about 40 days. And there were times when I was in that hospital where I thought to myself, man, I don't know if I can go on like this. And then when they took my leg away, deep inside, I felt like I'm not the same person anymore. What will my life be like in the future without a limb? How will I be able to walk? And more importantly, how will I be able to support my family?
I am Staff Sergeant Meg Krause. I was on active duty for 5 years. I joined the reserves when I came out of active duty. And now I'm the non-commissioned officer in charge of a battalion aid station for a combat engineering unit in Pennsylvania. I was stop-lost in 2006. I would have gotten out of the service, but I was deployed to Iraq at the time, just outside of Tikrit. I was a medic. We got mortared a lot, and we always say that when everybody else has to turn away and pull security, we have to turn around and face the damage. My psychological health, I didn't think it was an issue when I came home. You know, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to be one of those people who clams up and doesn't talk about it and can't handle it. And it wasn't until 2.5 years later, when I was in the high stress of graduating from college, you know, writing papers, taking tests, looking for a job, looking for an apartment. Everything I've worked for goodness only knows how many years is coming to a close, and I don't even know what I'm doing next. And that's when I really started to notice a problem.
The warrior ethos is such that we kind of have this belief that you're supposed to just tough things out. And unfortunately, that doesn't help us a lot when we're suffering from the invisible wounds of war. So I hope the message gets out that reaching out is a sign of courage and a sign of strength. You're not alone. There are people out there, there are resources out there that can help you and want to help you, but you have to take that first step.
Way in the back here, you put litter 1 and litter 2. Okay.
When I first got to the unit, she was very driven, dedicated, always wanting to be here, always looking out for her soldiers.
Very outgoing. She was the kind of person that wanted to tackle all the missions.
Very dependable person, very knowledgeable.
After about 6-7 months after Sergeant Krause came to this unit, I noticed she was sleeping a lot. I was having to call her a lot because she was late. She was very irritable.
She just became disinterested and not really wanting to be a part of the team anymore.
And I think I was the last person to notice it. One of my soldiers actually sat me down over lunch and said,
I think you might be suffering from PTSD. And I said, I really think it would benefit you and us as a medical section to get it checked out.
And then there was another incident where one day when I was on drill weekend, I just said, forget this. And I did not go to formation. And Sergeant McCarthy said to me when I finally answered the phone, well, why don't you just come in and talk to us? He said, talk to First Sergeant. I've seen him talk to people about this before. He understands. And so, you know, I came in and First Sergeant sat me down and said, he said, you know, I remember the smell of the 50 cal. And we talked for a while. And at the end of it, we were joking and laughing, and it was still First Sergeant. And I was still Staff Sergeant Krause. And I still ran that medical section. And he was okay with that.
Knew something was wrong with her and possibility of PTSD when she did come back from Iraq and joined our unit. Reason being is because I came back from Iraq in 2005 and I had PTSD too. And that's how I know the symptoms of what Sergeant Krause is going through. I have all the respect for her in the world. And that goes for all the rest of my soldiers that are in this unit.
I was getting worse and worse and worse because I didn't go get help. The problem just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I had just gotten help 6 months before I did, I would have really been better off in the long run. Because it wasn't until I got the emotional help that I needed that I was able to fix the rest of my problems.
She's back to the way she was when I first got in the unit as far as being a very dedicated NCO to her soldiers, the unit, the mission, training. She's a very outstanding NCO. I think it takes quite a bit of strength in order to admit that you have an issue, but it also takes intuitiveness of a friend, a leader, the supervisor to pick up on the signal that the soldier is having issues and needs to seek professional help in dealing with it.
Sergeant Hopper came to work every day. We talked about baseball, talked about the squadron, talked about deploying, where we were going, what we were doing. Even the deployment to Iraq never seemed to raise any concerns with him that I saw until the day that we gave him that award, that the light went on in our head that he may be dealing with something we need to help him with. And as Sergeant Major was reading the award, I realized that Sergeant Hopper was reliving what had happened at that time. Shaking, cold sweats, and it was all happening there within 30 seconds of reading the award.
He goes, "What's bothering you?" He knew something was up. And I told him, I said, "I'm about to lose it, sir. I started telling him everything that had been going on, and I said, I've got to do something. I've let this go too long to where I can't sleep. All I think about is, these negative thoughts. I've pushed my family away. I said, I've been getting up every morning, coming to work, making y'all think everything's fine, but really I'm just putting a mask on, and you're not seeing what's, going on the inside or what's going on at home." I said, I've got to do something about it. And he was nothing but supportive of it.
The CO actually personally picked up the phone and lined up inpatient treatment.
It seemed like from that day on, when I would go to get treatment, go to my classes, things like that, things started getting better. After my 3 months was up there, I came back.
Returning to full health and clearances and everything else, and I said, "Bring him back. He's part of us. Let's go." And he came back in and checked in at my door, and I said, "All right, get to work. Let's go." And it's been great.
I know if I didn't have a CO like him and a command like I had, and the kind of family I had, that I might have not made it through this and gotten better.
I haven't thought any different of him. As a matter of fact, I actually respect him and trust him more now because of the fact that he had a problem, he had an issue. He brought it to me. Together we figured it out. We fixed it, and he's as good or better Marine now and in the future. I mean, he's a trusted agent for me.
Sergeant Hopper's been an inspiration. His actions, how he dealt with this, like a man, like a Marine, inspires us all to do better. Right now, he can do whatever he wants. He's got an unlimited future in the Marine Corps.
There's not a commanding officer out there or a leadership staff out there that doesn't want to help. It's sometimes challenging for a young Marine to come to a senior staff member or senior officer in the unit and tell him he's got a problem. We're all Marines, so don't hesitate. Come ask.
It all comes back to, it takes real strength to swallow your pride and to say, I need help, and to go actually get the help.
I started viewing suicide as a way to just stop. I was just wanting to turn off the 600 TV sets that was going on in my head all the time. I couldn't handle it no more. So I started having suicide ideations to the point where I was actually in the backyard with a pistol thinking about killing myself. And the only thing that really stopped me was thinking, my God, my kids are going to come home from school and find me this way.
Jeff's frustration and anger really had reached a peak. At the same time, his wife expressed to my wife concern, and then to me directly, that Jeff was very negative at home. He seems hopeless. He does not see a path to the future. As soon as I had that cue, plus my own personal interaction with Jeff and his decreasing physical performance on the job, I knew that we had to take him for professional care. So basically what I did is I called directly over to mental health. I saw them and I told them, if you're not able to help him immediately, if you are not capable of making this happen here, then you need to call me immediately. If he's non-cooperative or doesn't show up, contact me immediately. I will be involved in this until we get him to the person or place that we need.
It wasn't until Colonel Pinnell noticed and helped me find the right person on Fort Polk. And Colonel Pinnell knew about the program in Washington, D.C., Deployment Health Clinical Center, and he recommended that I go to that. It felt like the cat was out of the bag, and there's no way I can put it back in. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And believe it or not, about 100 pounds of weight came off of me right then.
I started to see a little bit of hope in his eyes. And he asked me to go with him. And that was hopeful for me.
So Sherry spent group time with us, where she could hear other soldiers saying the same thing that I was saying. She was able to understand that, yeah, there is some pretty dark holes there. And for me to understand that she sat back home worried to death about me, trying to stay strong, trying to have a face for the rest of the family